Hey, what's up? I'm Mike Squires. This is Couchers Podcast, episode number 155. And my guest, Jon Wurster, a drummer who's had 101 of the coolest gigs of all time, comedy writer, co-creator and co-writer of The Best Show, and all-around talent. I had a great time talking with him. What a cool story. And once again, a person who's guested on the podcast, who's just had a lot of opportunities open up to him, from being super talented, but also just being open to opportunities. Yeah. And they certainly don't seem to be slowing down. He's, as I said, you don't need to hear me say it if you know who he is, but he's a hyper talented fella. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. It was a great time. If you are enjoying the Couchers podcast, please go support us at Patreon. The entry point over there is $5 a month. It's not much, but if 100 people give $5, pledge $5 a month, that's $500 that I can put towards production on the cover song videos. It's more time that I can focus on this so that the podcast is getting better. It is able to keep going, and eventually, hopefully, it can take the focus of my energies. So thank you to everyone who supports over there. I really appreciate it. Go check out rivercityguitars.com. River City Guitars is a constant supporter of the podcast. We thank them. They are a cool boutique, rare and vintage, used, cool stuff guitar shop in Spokane, Washington. Follow them at on social media for sure. A lot of stuff ends up there, gets posted on there, and gets sold before it ever makes the website. So at rivercityguitars.com. Thank you so much to River City Guitars for your support. I hope that you enjoy this conversation. It's fucking great. Don't forget the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated, and do your best to not be a motherfucker. Do your best to not be a slack motherfucker.
Start. Oh, there we go. Is
Look
that right?
at that.
Yeah.
Hey. How are you?
I'm good. Let me see if I can adjust my headphones without turning them off, which happens.
Oh, you got some of those
The fancy guys.
touchy, yeah.
Yes.
I have a set of orange rigs like that, and every time I go to move them around, it stops everything. I can't figure out how to turn it up.
I had it in the middle of a Best Show call, just like hung up on him on the air.
Good.
So
Good.
embarrassing.
That's ideal. That's ideal. How are you, man?
Good. Nothing to speak of, really. Just trying to live.
It's more than ever. It's a pretty weird time to be doing that.
It is. Weird weather. It was supposed to be a huge ice storm here today, and luckily that missed us, but it's rainy. I feel like I haven't seen the sun in a week. That's terrible. I don't like it.
When I left the Northwest, that was one thing people told me a lot, like, oh yeah, sure, New York's cold, but you'll see the sun a lot, and that makes up for it, makes up for the 6 degrees weather or whatever. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I mean, I do see the sun. I don't know if it makes up for it.
Where do you live?
I'm up in Hudson, New York.
Oh, okay. I don't even know if I've ever been there. My cousin lives there, and I know. Does Tommy Stinson still live there?
Yeah, he's in Hudson.
Wow. supposed to be nice.
It's great, man. I love it up here. It's,
Yeah.
close to the city if you feel like you need to be there. I
Hmm.
usually don't. Great place to visit, I think. We have a little place
Yeah.
there still. My
That's
wife,
great.
she works down there.
Okay.
It wasn't really to my liking.
The city.
Yeah.
What part were you in?
We were in Brooklyn. We still have
What
a little,
section?
we were in South Williamsburg. So it sounds
Like where?
fancy,
Near the
but
pool? In
no,
relation to the
no, no,
pool?
no. South. Oh, South and um yeah, South. We're like South Fifth and Hooper.
Hooper, I don't think I know. Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's what are the, like if you take the JMZ train, not the L,
Right.
take it's
Right.
the second stop, and they're like, just a couple blocks away from each other. It's almost like, why bother having to stop there? But
Yeah. How close to that kind of cool movie theater?
which cool, the place that you go upstairs and they serve beer and there's a
I
pizza
think
place
that's
next
it.
door.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, everything's a walk away, and
All right.
I mean, shit. Astoria is practically a walk away if you're
Right.
patient enough.
True.
I miss walking a lot. That's the thing that I miss about the city the most. You got to drive everywhere up here.
Do you walk during the day? Like a constitutional?
I mean, not much. There's no, I
Okay.
live very rurally,
Oh,
so
I see. I got it. I got it.
I walk my dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. Yeah, you're in Chapel Hill.
Yes. I'm about kind of in the country also, just a couple miles out of town.
What's the club there, right on the strip?
There is the one that's been there forever is called the Cat's Cradle.
That's the one.
That's the bigger one. And there's a smaller one called Local 506 that has had bands forever too. That's more of a dive.
I had a life-changing experience at Cat's Cradle.
Hmm.
Two, actually. Well, they kind of tie in, right?
Yeah.
I was on tour. I was in a band called Alien Crime Syndicate with some, you probably do you remember the Mises?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Joe Meese, he fronted the Alien Crime Syndicate.
Oh, okay.
So we're there, and I decided it'd be great to take mushrooms before we played.
Oh no.
And I was really scared that I was gonna forget how to play or do,
It's the worst.
because I was really, really high. I
Yeah.
didn't think I
Oh,
was one of these like oh yeah, just eat a half a caramel or whatever.
right.
But you don't know you don't know what's what. So I had what I think was an amazing show. I mean, it felt very natural, but who knows, really.
Hmm.
And after the show, I was obviously still really, really high, and I'm in the back, and we're smoking a joint with the door guy, and I fucking realize that it's Ed Crawford, and I kind of lose my shit
Right.
because I'm a really big fan, and it was one of those moments where I thought to myself, I fucked up and I'm in the wrong profession.
Right.
I made a terrible life choice because this guy just took my guest list, and I would shine his shoes I mean, not really. I wouldn't shine his
Right.
shoes, but I just felt like, oh man, I better fucking get a backup plan quick.
Right. I don't remember Ed working there. He and I lived together for a few years down
Oh,
here.
really?
Yeah, we had a little band together too. Uh, but yeah, he must have worked there at some point. That sounds logical, actually.
It was 2000. Maybe he was just filling in. I don't know. It
He
was
might have been. He was picking up
2000,
jobs sometimes. Yeah,
2001.
that sounds right then. Yeah, yeah. All right. Wow.
But yeah, that was one of those moments in life where I was like, oh. And then of course we left, and we were still really high, and we were staying with some people who had a pool,
Right.
And I decided that it would be great to go skinny dip in the pool,
Oh.
public pool.
Hmm.
And I saw fireflies for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Never saw a firefly before. They don't
Where
have.
are you from?
Well, I'm from the West Coast. I'm from Seattle.
Mm,
Yeah. So, they don't have them there.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, they don't have what are lightning bugs or whatever you call them.
Right. Huh.
A lot of things they don't have up there. They don't have good biscuits usually either.
I could see that.
Yeah. They can roast the shit out of some coffee though.
Oh, yes.
Uh you've been you must have been in a million bands by now. You just said you had a band
Um,
with Ed. What was that band?
this was called Grand National, and
Oh,
it was him and me and this woman named Jenny Snyder, who gosh, where did they meet? She was from Michigan, and I think he met her on tour in the Fire Hose days, and she was a really good bass player.
yeah.
And so she moved down. God, when would this have been? This would have been mid 90s, probably like 94 or 5 or so. And he was trying to decide between Athens and Chapel Hill to live. And I think my brother and I and our friend had just gotten a house somewhere. We said, "Hey, you want to live with us?" And he was like, "All right." So that was
Did you
it.
know him before, or was he Ed Crawford, Ed from
You know,
Ohio, and you were just like Ed, like the moment I had?
I trying to think when I first met Ed. Ed would come to see Superchunk in LA on my first tour out there. So that would have been January of 92. And he came to like 4 shows. We played in at Munchies in the Inland Empire, and we played the Whiskey, and we played the Casbah in San Diego, and
Sure.
another one. And he came to all of them. And so and he put us up. That's right. He put us up in his pad in Pedro on that tour. And
Nice.
he had one of Bob's flying V's. Bob gave him a flying V at some point. Uh, Mould, and
Yeah.
so that's probably where we met. And
I just realized that was a foolish question because Firehose famously covered Slack Motherfucker.
yes, yeah, that would have
Yeah.
been probably just before I joined. But I would go see them because I was a huge Minutemen fan. I had a band in Philly where I grew up outside of Philly, and had a band called Psychotic Norman, and we opened for the Minutemen. Gosh, I got the flyer right here, October 22nd, 1985. So that would have been 2 months, 2 months before he died, I think. Yeah.
You were outside of
Uh,
Philly. Were you in Jersey or were you in Pennsylvania?
I was in the Mennonite farmlands of
Yeah.
north of between Philly and Allentown. So it was, pretty farmy rural area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets pretty
Um,
weird pretty quick when you get out of the city.
oh yeah. Yeah. And it's wasn't a very it was a nice place to live. It wasn't at all, conducive to rocking or anything. So
Well, you don't
I
think
always,
that cruising into the metropolis of Allentown was doing you a lot of good?
I don't know if I went to Allentown almost never, maybe twice. I saw a show at a community center, Corrosion of Conformity and DRI. And that might have been the only time I've ever really been to Allentown, come to
I've
think of it.
played two great shows there, incredibly, in a
In
really weird
Allentown.
place. Yeah. Is Allentown, is that where is it called the Alligator Club or something like that? Like it's almost like the crocodile, like
Oh, you might be thinking of a place in Reading, either
I've never
Reading,
been to
PA,
Reading.
or in Harrisburg. I feel like Harrisburg had a kind of hip club with a name that was like oh, was it called the Chameleon Club?
I don't think so. I think it was called the Alligator.
Okay, because I think the Chameleon was either in Reading or Harrisburg.
This place was definitely in Allentown because I remember thinking like, there's a song about this place, and it's a pretty rough place.
Yeah.
Those are great.
When I was
there, though.
When I was a kid, I went to a mall in Quakertown, PA, which was on the way to Allentown, and it was at when the Billy Joel song you speak of was high on the charts, and there was a what do you call it, a petition at this record store in this mall to get Billy Joel to play in Allentown, and I signed it, and he did play there eventually.
Really?
Not because of me. Yeah.
Do you think that was some sort of do you think that was a thing that the mall actually, conjured
instigated?
up? Or do you think
Could
that
be.
he sort of masterminded or managed? That's this kind of thing that
it seems like a PR move.
Smart marketing, right?
Oh, it totally seems like a PR move. At the time, to a kid, it's like, you're not aware of PR. You're just like, oh yeah, this is going to get him here. It's going to work. And it did.
Did you go see it?
No, I never liked Billy Joel.
Yeah, but you signed it anyway.
Oh, of course.
You're like, well, some assholes are going to want to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to do my duty.
He caught a lot of shit when he got his DUI. And then the boss, man, he just got one.
Well, now that the more I've read about this boss thing is that
it's like bullshit.
He was on like a motorcycle or something, and then these fans were there, and the fans wanted photos, and gave him a shot, and he took one shot, and then got on his bike and rode away, and the guy instantly popped him. So
because he saw him have the drinks or whatever. That, I mean, you gotta have cojones to be a state trooper or whatever and be like, sorry, boss, I gotta take you in.
That's right. Yeah. I know you wrote a song about my very profession and called it State Trooper, but I gotta do it. No, Highway Patrolman. That's the song, Highway Patrolman. Isn't there a song called State Trooper? Doesn't seem like he would have a song that, I'm a state trooper on getting off in Linden.
Is it? It's got to be he's somewhere in Nebraska on the 80.
That's right.
Does the 80 go through Nebraska?
Might be. Yeah.
Some highway does.
Yeah.
That's a stretch of rough road. I don't like to drive across Nebraska. I'd rather drive across Texas almost.
Texas is a good drive. My favorite drive, I've only done it maybe twice, is Seattle to like through Idaho. Oh, it's so beautiful. Oh my God.
That's the 90, man. That's the 90.
Incredible. I've only done it twice, I think, ever.
You go up and over the pass, over the Cascade, and you go across the high desert, and then you hit that second pass in Idaho and drop down into Montana, and it's just
so nice.
That's a kind of thing, that's why people come up with shit like God's Country. I don't know. I don't necessarily buy all that, but it's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So all right. So what is the town? Quakertown? No, that's where the mall was.
That's where the mall was. The town I grew up in originally was Vernfield, PA, but it was so small they took away our post office. So my mailing address was Harleysville, PA. Harleysville.
So you guys had to drive to the next town over to grocery shop.
Yes.
Yeah. I grew up like that too.
It was kind of fun, I don't know. I always hoped I would see the world, and that did happen. But I always think about, if I'm somewhere special, I think of it through the lens of that location, the house which had a cornfield in the backyard, and
right.
So yeah.
Were drums your first instrument?
Trumpet. I played the trumpet in elementary school, but I always wanted to play the drums, and incredibly my parents were okay with it. And you start off on a pad, which is so unsatisfying, and it's just a pad. I still have the pad in the other room, and
the same one.
You know, after, yes, yeah.
It's like an albatross.
After 6, so I was 10. Oh yeah, no, I'll never get rid of it. I'll be buried with it or cremated with it. Just stick it in that oven. Um, I after about 6 months, you know, it's so not what a 10-year-old wants to do. They want to just, you know, play. I didn't have a drum kit or anything, but so I stopped, and then I must have just told. Oh, I guess I just started like playing around on things like pencils and things, and my I think I probably just told my parents I really want to try again to play. And for my 12th birthday, they got me a drum kit, like a cheap kind of it wasn't even a brand. It was they
Right.
sounded terrible, but it was a drum kit. And
Yeah.
so I played that for a long time, and then by maybe around 13 or 14, I realized that, oh, I can wear these headphones and it kind of blocks out the sound of the drums, so I could hear the music and hear the drums, and that was just life changing. I was
Right.
it was Graham Parker's "Squeezing Out Sparks"
That's what you
record.
were. That's what
That
you're
was the
cranking it to.
first thing I ever played with, and this is a this is a funny story. I I love synchronicities, like when basically this will be self-explanatory, but maybe 5 years ago, it was the day before Prince died, whenever that was. I was no, it was the day he died. I had just finished a Mountain Goats tour in New York, and I was about to start a Bob Mould tour in Madison, Wisconsin. And these kids came to the sound check for the final Mountain Goat show we were doing in this run, and they were musicians, and they would ask questions, you know, like, what do you do this? Yeah, how do you do this? And one kid asked me like what were my favorite records to play along with, and I told the story of discovering this world where I could play along with records, and it was to the Graham Parker record. And so I'm flying to Madison, and I connect in Chicago, and I get off the plane to get to my next gate, and I'm walking up the the runway into the not the lounge, what do you call it, the waiting area. And who are the first two people I see? Graham Parker and Brinkley Schwartz. And I just ran up to them, and I just said, the first record I ever played along with was Squeezing Out Sparks, and I just think you guys are great, blah blah blah. And I must have just like terrified them. And they were super nice.
Did you say who you were? Did you just like diuretically purge on them and then run away?
He goes, wait, you look familiar. And I just said, you don't know me. I look like a rock person, that sort of thing. But amazingly, he was so I fly to Minnesota. I'm sorry, to Madison. So it was the day before Prince died. On the way to Minnesota the next day to play First Avenue, Prince dies.
Yeah.
And so that was just insane. But it turns out Graham Parker was at that show. I guess he was playing the night after somewhere in Minneapolis. So
you saw him again that night then?
I didn't see him. I heard from a friend that he was there.
I wonder if he saw you and he was like, ah.
I wonder.
Yeah.
That's that crazy guy that tackled us yesterday.
Oh, look who it is. It's Cuckoo Bear.
Yes, yeah.
So what got you fired up to play drums? What attracted to you? Because you were sitting down playing the trumpet. I played the trumpet. Right. I loved the trumpet, but there's the drums have an allure. Inside every musician on stage, on any given stage, anywhere, half of them wish they were the drummer.
Yeah, the drums for a kid, when you see the drums, it's like a cool car or something. You know what I mean? Like it's something. It's just not of your world, unless your dad or whoever plays the drums and you see them every day. They're very exotic, and so
there's equipment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I would probably see when I was in elementary school, the junior high school would send their stage band to entertain us once a year or something. And so it was like a band with trumpets and saxes and a drum kit. And it was just so cool to see a drum kit. And I probably just saw people play on American Bandstand, and it just seemed like the coolest thing to do. And like I said, amazingly, my parents were okay with it. And I practiced every day from from 12 until I moved out, 18 or 19. So my parents get
You get huge
credit, as they say,
Yeah.
for that. Yes.
Were you a Kiss fan as a kid?
Oh yes, yeah. Yes, it's funny because I that was probably the first band that I loved. Like most kids, it's like a cartoon come to life, and I had all those records. I didn't see them live when I was a kid. So we're talking like 76 to, I think I probably started to think they were uncool around when I got into Aerosmith in like 78, maybe late 78. When the solo records came out, I remember only buying Aces, and that was like a signal. Oh, I didn't buy all of them. This must be waning. But
those albums really suck, except for Aces. Aces is pretty cool.
Well, it's funny. Yes, but Peters is the most insane because it's so not what a child wants to hear.
Right.
A friend of mine had this great bit where it's just like, imagine you're 12 years old and you see this album, and it's like he's half cat and he's half human. Like, is he going to bite your head up? And you put it on, and it's like this tepid R&B. So I'm sure that was disappointing to some children.
The Elder was, looking back now, the Elder is amazing. I actually think the Elder is great, but as a kid, that was the worst thing that could have ever happened.
Awful. They it's like, I will buy any book, any documentary, any DVD, anything on Kiss, but I genuinely dislike most of their music, but I just need to know it all. I need to know everything.
Have you ever met them or have you ever been around them?
No, I was asked, God, it must have been 10 years ago, by Magnet Magazine to do a Q&A with Ace, so, which unfortunately wasn't on the phone or anything. It was just email. And I sent probably 20 questions, and I feel like 10 of them were kind of funny and kind of clever that would like diehards would want to know the answers to. Right. And he didn't answer any of the funny, interesting ones, I thought. So, and this plays into something I heard someone say about him. They said it was a guy that knew him when he was a hard partier and now knows him now that he's been sober for like 10 years. And he said, that part of me is gone. Like that kind of funny joke guy is just not here anymore, which is sad, but also it's like, yeah, he probably wouldn't be alive if he had continued to party so hard,
Yeah, no, you can use up all your tickets pretty quick.
Yes, true. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I met them once. I mean, it was like 7 years ago, and had my photo taken with them. And I felt like it was great. There was this line of people, and everyone is just like timid and scared. And I get up there, and I'm like, and they're all posing. So I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking posing. Right. And I walked away, and I felt like such a fool because I was the only one in the photograph with a shirt on, and I really wanted to get back in line and take my shirt off and have my photo. I thought it would be pretty funny, but it wasn't going to happen.
Were other people taking their shirts off?
No, that's the thing. I felt like it would have been the right thing to do.
I think they might have made fun of you or like busted on you like in a way that wasn't fun. Because I saw them. There's footage of them doing that to an interviewer in that same context where it's sort of the meet and greet sort of thing, and he's wearing an Iron Maiden shirt. and they're oddly like not mean to him, but they make him take it off and put a Kiss shirt on, which is clever and funny.
Right.
But you could, the guy, it was English was not his main language, so you could tell he wasn't.
He was struggling.
Yeah, it was hard for him. So you roll the dice with Kiss, I guess.
I had really awkward interactions with Paul and Gene.
No, I'm kidding. It's completely believable.
It was too bad. I was really looking forward to it. They signed my books though, you know.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I still haven't read them.
Oh, you got to. I've got all of them right here. They're all signed except for Pete. I don't have a Peter signed one.
Gene couldn't fucking resist talking shit about Ace and Peter's books when I had him sign the book. It was really disappointing. I actually said to him,
like joke funny or
no. He
genuinely busting.
No, he was like, looked at, you know, his and Paul's book, and he was like, you know, somewhere between these two stories is the truth, but that garbage that those other two are peddling is just nasty lies. And I was like, not necessary, Gene. Thanks. Have a great night.
I had this weird incident when Peter's book came out. A friend had a friend at his publisher and got me a hard copy of the book, and it was the book.
Yeah.
And so I started like tweeting the most outrageous passages in it, like just stuff you just wouldn't write about yourself or your wife or your lover,
right?
You know, but in the book, and it was just people were really interested in reading these little passages because they're so bizarre. And then I find out, I get contacted by the guy that kind of ghost wrote it, Larry Sloman, and he goes, hey, just so you know, the publisher contacted me and was like, who the fuck is this guy? What the fuck is this guy doing? It turned out the book wasn't out yet. I thought it was, but it wasn't out yet. And he goes, I had to vouch for you. And I'd never met Larry at this point either. And he goes, I told him you're okay, and it's probably going to sell a few copies. And apparently, like, it did help sell copies from what I heard. But
nice.
I wish I'd known it wasn't out yet, because I wouldn't have done it.
How early was it?
I mean, it was a hard copy of the book. Like, it was what I thought was a finished copy with the cover. So probably like a month before or something.
That's like,
but I think his is the best book. He was in a band that got kidnapped twice by a mobster.
No.
Yes.
Do you think that's true? There's so much. I don't know, but it's a great. Did you ever read the fucking Joey Ramone, or not the Joey Ramone, the Dee Dee Ramone book?
The Chelsea Hotel, or his Poison Heart, the one that's kind of a memoir where he says he doesn't know who played bass on End of the Century.
Yeah, but it opens up with him, like, he says, like, oh, we missed a flight, and then we got this private flight,
yes.
And then we got there and we killed a fucking Russian agent and threw his body in the woods or some. It was just like the most absurd shit.
Yeah, his I think is probably 10% truth, I would imagine.
You read a lot of rock books?
Oh, yeah.
What's your favorite one?
I'm looking at some of my stuff here. You know, I love Bob Mould's book. Even if I wasn't involved with him, I would think that's top 5. Bob Mould's book, Bob Mayer's Replacements book, I think is incredible. Trouble Boys. The Dirt, of course, is great. Motley Crew.
Can we talk about Dirt for a second?
Yes, and first let me say, a band I seriously only like one song by.
Motley Crue?
You got to guess what it is. It's the same song everyone else who dislikes Motley Crue but likes one song likes.
Oh, is it Dr. Feelgood?
No, it's on that record.
Oh, it is. Is it Don't Go
Yes.
Away Mad?
Yes.
Oh, it's a great song, man. I mean, it could be a Tom Petty song.
It's so good, and my memory of the video is, like, those guys would play those horrible guitars, those pointy guitars that I
I
just
love
hated.
them. Oh,
Oh, anyway, in this video, they're playing like cool vintage instruments. Very unusual, I thought, for them. I thought it was like, wow, it's a great song, and they're playing cool instruments.
well, God, I swear this will tie all the way back around. I've been listening to Life's Ridge Pageant all week because I'm
Yeah.
gonna review it this weekend, and so last night I watched the song Exploder for Losing My Religion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's great. And those guys are fucking amazing, right? And
Mhm.
and I realized, like, when I was growing up, like when I was in high school, I was aware of alternative rock music, but I only had a couple records. A couple records sort
Mm.
of filtered in through my like uncles who had stolen cars, and they had tape books, to the tape cases in them, right? And so I
Right.
was
Yeah.
exposed to a few things, like, just by chance. Mostly I was into like Motley Crew, and
Mm.
watching the song Exploder and seeing footage of them earlier, and then listening to that album, I just realized, God, I really poisoned my mind so much when I was in high school. And not everyone, it would be unfair to say everyone, but most of the people that I looked up to musically were such incredible shitheads.
Oh yeah. No, that's pretty much every famous person, whether like in acting, in
Yeah.
everything. I mean, you have to, you don't have to be, but yeah, everyone's majorly fucked up, I think.
Sure. I think, yeah, well, the stereotypical arc to, you know, meeting success and writing fame, and then crashing on the rocks, you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
But yeah,
Oh, get
those guys could string a sentence together and it was great. But Motley Crue, man, those guys were boobs. I
oh, total
mean,
boobs.
uh but in that book, it's not like they try to hide it. They almost wear it like a badge. I mean, they're
Yeah.
idiots.
They had to, like, they had to, I think, come clean on that, and just just show themselves for what they were. I remember there was there was this great I think it was a cover story on them in Rolling Stone when Dr. Feelgood came out, and like the first paragraph is the setup about where this is happening, and it's at this pool somewhere, like a nice hotel, and someone comes up and asks one of them for an autograph, and he goes, yeah, who should I make it out to? And it was I think it was like Mike, and he goes, two two E's, like, didn't know how to spell Mike or whatever.
It's like Joe.
So, yes. Yeah.
Is that with an E or with
Yeah.
with no E?
Yeah. So,
Uh
and
they
that's what's like impressive to me, is like, and with the Ramones or whoever, there always does need to be one guy that kind of drives it, Nikki Sixx, Tommy Ramone,
right.
whoever, but for these other three guys to come, like, to actually be able to like hang with it, who otherwise, Oasis too, like, had fate gone a different way, these guys would be fucking, ditch diggers. Not that
Right.
there's anything wrong with being a ditch digger, but
That's what
that's
I
the
was.
beauty of.
I mean, I'm fucking one paycheck away from that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I barely graduated high school. So,
Those Motley Crue guys, though, I don't want to say anything. And I've asked people this on the show here before who've read that book when it's
yeah.
come up. What is the dumbest, most absurd thing that they did to you? in in your mind, what is the dumbest thing they did? Because I know without a doubt what I think it is.
Well, there's the thing about snorting the ants and injecting vodka or whatever, but there's got
I don't think they
well,
shot whiskey. I don't believe that. I've seen a lot of
well
debauchery.
there's really like horribly mean stuff, like Vince fucking Tom Zutot's girlfriend at the Us festival. I
Right.
mean, just like when I read stuff like that and the Razzle thing, it's like, oh, this guy's not a good guy. So
He smells a lot better than he looks like he would.
right.
I got a hug from him once.
Interesting.
He looks like he would smell really bad, right?
Right. I've never really had any contact with those guys other than being on a flight with Tommy a few years ago, and I just remember standing kind of near him at the baggage carousel, and he was just being a normal guy, but I just remember thinking, this guy looks like he's lived 50 lives. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
he didn't look bad. He just looked like this guy has lived.
I toured with him. I toured
in what context?
Opening, main support.
What was this band called?
I play in a band with Duff McKagan, and so we were out on the road with Motley Crew in Europe, and they were all incredibly nice.
Right.
Mick Mars is super cool guy. Everyone else was super nice. Tommy was in the final stages of partying. I think after that, he gave it up mostly. But it was weird, man. It was weird.
Yeah.
But when they were talking about cheating, like none of them had jobs. They were deadbeats, except for Mick, right?
Right.
Mick was like, because Mick was already 40 or whatever. And those guys are like 19. And Mick's like, whatever. I've got a kid older than you guys. And so those guys are all just tearing it up, and they're depending on their girlfriends 100%. And then they would go out and cheat on their girlfriends. And what would they do?
Burrito time, right?
They would stick their dicks in burritos? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't think that it is more suspicious to come home smelling like a pot of like carne asada or whatever? I don't understand. They're like, that's the kind of dumb they are.
Right. Yeah. Hey, dude.
Hey.
No, check it out, bro. Dude.
Somehow I just thought they were and like I said, my experience with those guys was great, but somehow I thought that like brilliance and intelligence never even crossed my mind when I thought about music as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That world never appealed. I think I was too old at that point. Like I was probably, what was I, probably 20 when that was happening, 21 maybe.
Right, I can see how that might escape you.
Yeah, I wasn't in that world. I liked punk rock and REM and the Replacements and Huskers and
right.
Oh, but getting to REM, I would posit that that's one of the best opening 3 songs of all time. Lights with Pageant.
Oh, I mean, it's a fucking great album.
Yeah. I think it's their best sounding album too.
Anyone who listens to this and also listens to Golden Shower Hits, I'll just tell you now, I'm going to give it an A.
Oh yeah. Although we had who did we have on drums on that record? Jon something? I'll think of it. Golden Shower Pits by the Circle Jerks?
Oh, I have another podcast and it's called Golden Shower of Hits, and and it's an album review podcast.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Circle Jerks here.
Well, it's inspired by that.
Got it.
So we do a punk rock cover from the album, a la the song from the album. That's a medley of 70s radio hits, right?
Right.
Yeah. We actually did Kiss. It was released today. We did Love Gun, which incredibly didn't get a great grade from us. It was just like, well, it's pretty offensive. There's a lot of offensive shit on there.
What, like, you'll never leave me, mama, so don't try, or we get together, you'll sweat?
Christine 16. We both listened to the deluxe version. The Christine 16 is so offensive.
Oh,
and
terrible.
there on the deluxe edition, there's a song called Too Much Too Soon.
Mm.
And it is twice as offensive as Christine 16.
Just terrible.
It's incredible. Anyway, let's get off Kiss. Everybody knows they're a terrible bar band with an incredible stage show.
I did see a great Hard Times headline. I think today it was, oh God, I can remember it. It was band that cites Kiss as a major influence sucks. Something like that.
Go figure.
Yeah.
All right. So all through high school, are you playing in punk rock bands? Are you playing in?
Gosh, probably in ninth grade, where I grew up, there weren't really any kids my age who liked the Clash or the Police or the Ramones or that sort of thing that I knew of.
Right.
So I hooked up with a friend of my brother's named Steve, and he was probably two or 3 years older, and he played bass. He had a Dan Armstrong bass, which you don't see often. And
coolest.
Yeah. And he was more into like new romantic stuff. Like he loved like Spandau Ballet and but he loved like Dead Kennedys. He was the first guy to turn me on to Dead Kennedys and things like that, Ramones. And so we put a little band together, and this guy who was like 28, I'm 14. There's a guy who was 28 who also played bass. We had two basses, one played fuzz, one played regular, and a singer guy who played guitar. And we were kind of like a new wave band. We did originals and songs that like punk bands covered. So we do like Do You Want to Dance, the Ramones version, the Plasmatics version of Dream Lover by Bobby Darin, things like that. And we play my high school. We played dances and things. It was like a 6-month period in 1981 when my high school went new wave, and then it was over. Then everyone was a jock again. So so that was my first like real band, and that was called Hair Club for Men. And then and then as I got older, I started hanging out with one of the bands that would open for Hair Club for Men was a duo called Narthex, and the drummer lived about 15 minutes from me. He was an older guy, and he went on to be Dean Clean, the drummer for the Dead Milkmen. So he would let me hang out with them when they rehearsed in his basement. So this is like 1983, and I guess I was a junior in high school. And so I'd hang out with those guys, and I'd tag along, and we'd go into the city and see whoever, 7 Seconds and Government Issue and the UK Subs and things like that. And then through those guys, I ended up getting in my first real band, which was Psychotic Norman, which is the band that played with the Minutemen.
Wait a minute. I feel like a fool. Are the Dead Milkmen not from Texas?
No, they're from Philly, but they did at least 2 albums there in Austin.
Okay. Maybe that's how I got the idea in my head somewhere along the line that they were from Austin.
They have a song called Taco Land, which is about I think a still existing taco place in San Antonio. So that might be
I always thought that it would be really hard to be the Dead Milkmen and be from Texas, because it's a tough place to be from if you're left of center, unless you're right in the heart of Austin.
Right in Austin, yeah. If you're the Dicks or the big boys.
Right. Uh, and you get fucking name checked in a Dead Milkmen song.
That's right. Yes, I was as shocked as anyone. I bought the album. I was living in North Carolina at this point, and I bought the album and I put it on. And I was just shocked to hear my name in it. It was
How
crazy.
old are you at this point?
When did that album come out? 89, I think. So I would have been, I don't know. I was born in 66.
Man, I'm
what does
terrible
that
at
mean?
math.
I don't know.
You were probably 21. That's incredible. That's funny.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
that was your first taste of fame on the national stage, on the international
I
stage.
guess so. I think it was well, at that point I had already I left out or I haven't gotten to a major part where in 1986 January I flew from Philly to North Carolina to audition for this roots rock band that I had been whose record I'd sent away for when I was in high school. They're called the Right Profile. And Psychotic Norman was kind of not going where I wanted it to. We'd rehearse in our bass player's basement, and he didn't show up for practice one day in his own house. And I was pretty upset about that. And that night, my brother called. My brother was living in this town in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, and he said, "Hey, I met that band that you corresponded with recently, and they're looking for a drummer." And I just thought, I should try this. I don't feel like this thing is going to go anywhere, this band anymore. And so my dad gave me whatever $100 to go down and a flight, and I tried out. And like I liked the Rolling Stones when I was younger, and Bob Dylan. Those were their two big influences, and the band. And but I didn't really have any of that in my wiring in terms of drumming, but they liked me as a person, and I think I was malleable enough. I was 19,
Right.
and they let me in the band. And 3 months later, Clive Davis signed us to Arista Records.
No shit.
Yeah.
And this is 80. You said this is 87.
This would have been the spring of 86.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it was just the craziest thing. And I always had this weird goal of like, I better like make it to some degree by the time I'm 20, or
Right.
I don't know what I'm going to do. And somehow like it did happen before that. And but after we signed, it was all downhill. We it was there was so much red tape involved in even like getting to make a record. We had to keep submitting songs and demos, and we did demos with Pete Anderson, who did those Dwight Yoakam records, and
That
that
guy's
wasn't
got
happening. He was
he's a cool guy. A lot of stories.
oh yeah he was cool, but it just wasn't the right guy for us. And then we got halfway into our record with Jim Dickinson at Ardent, so it would have been
Wow.
either the record after or 2 records after Pleased to Meet Me, in the same studio. I might have even used the same drum kit that Chris used, and it just wasn't sounding great. Jim he had really embraced technology, and we were doing it on a Fairlight, on one of those early, I guess it's kind of the thing before Pro Tools, sort of. You could kind of cut up stuff and paste, and it just kind of sounded stiff. And I don't think it was the record he wanted to make either. I think he would probably have wanted it to be more like Pleased to Meet Me, a little more organic. And then we just decided it wasn't happening. I think I was the lone holdout to keep going, because I knew I had a feeling we would lose momentum, and we did, and we never got to do anything again, really.
Do you guys have any tours or gigs of note?
We we'd open for people. So like we we played the who would we have opened for? Georgia Satellites before they got famous. Bunch of shows with the Del Fuegos when they were kind of taken off.
Like
We
the
were
Del
managed.
Fuegos.
Yeah, we were managed by the same guys that did the replacements in the Del Fuegos at that time.
Yeah.
And so we'd get little gigs like that. And then but we the band stayed together, and we ended up getting a publishing deal. And the woman that signed us to this publishing deal, this is like 89 now. She hooks us up with Steve Jordan, the drummer, to produce a demo for us. So we go up to New York at the Hit Factory. So it's we rehearsed for a couple of nights in Steve's apartment. It was so much fun. It was so cool, and it's the most I've ever learned probably of anything in my life. He was so cool. Never showed me how to do anything, but he's just one of those guys you just soak up what he does. And so after a couple of days of just kind of like playing in his apartment, we go to the Hit Factory, and Nico Bolas was the engineer, and he had just done Freedom by Neil Young. And it was probably just, I feel like it was maybe a month after that incredible performance on SNL of Rockin' the Free World. Steve's on drums, Charlie Drayton's on bass, Poncho's on guitar. And I'm pretty sure that's the drum kit I used for this session. It was like a 28-inch bass drum. And it was just phenomenal. It was such a cool experience. Nothing ever came of it, but it was just the greatest learning experience of my life.
That came of it. I mean, how many things have happened in your life? I mean, I'm just assuming because you're a musician, but how many things have happened in your life where you're like, well, that wasn't what I thought it was, even if it was a really cool experience.
Right.
At some point, as a creative person, you realize no one thing is going to come along and be the lightning bolt moment that changes everything, right?
Yeah, it's true.
You could go on tour with U2 and it'd be like, well, it just moves the needle a little bit.
Right. yeah. But that one was, that was like a life changer. And even though, like I said, it didn't really lead to much for the band. And it was kind of the final thing we did. I still think about it every day, pretty much.
Right. Oh, that's cool, man. So when you get back to Winston-Salem, what do? Do you go back there?
Yeah. All right. So now I moved to Chapel Hill in March of 91, and that band still exists. And I was getting other little gigs to play on records and things. And so I was doing that, and then that band did kind of one last gasp. We did this just like baton death march out to LA to get signed as one did. So
did you tour all the way there, or you flew out?
Well, we played shows. We started in Atlanta, so drove the 6 hours to Atlanta, played some. It was like an art gallery or something. It wasn't like a real gig. Next show, Lubbock.
Wow.
And so it's us, our manager. Do you remember the Mercury Lounge?
Yeah.
In New York, she ran the Mercury Lounge for years after this tour. And our guitar player was Andy York, and Andy York went on to this great career. He still plays with John Mellencamp.
Right.
So he was our guitar player. He was so cool, and his brother-in-law came to help drive, and he was great. But so this just marathon drive to Lubbock, and we get to Lubbock, and we pull up to the club, and it's not a club. It's like a restaurant, and we were going to play out in the back patio. It was all favors. All these gigs were just favors. And the guy says, "Guys, I'm so sorry. It's going to rain, so the show's off. But great news, you can all get in down the street at the Dred Zeppelin show I'm putting on."
Amazing. Did you go?
No, we just got a pizza and drank beer.
I bet I never saw Dred Zeppelin, but I'll bet it was pretty fun, actually.
I don't think any of us were in the mood
for fun
to laugh at rock music. Yeah. So then we play the hotbed of rock and roll, El Paso.
Yeah.
Opening for a top 40, a hard rock cover band, all covers. And we're playing original music that sounds like Exile on Main Street meets Pleased to Meet Me or something. Like, no metal in this thing at all.
Yeah.
And so we show up, and we're late, of course. And this guy opens the door. Sorry. I'm going to decline this call. Sorry.
We're back. Are we back?
Are you still there?
I'm here.
And I'm back. Are you?
I'm here.
Okay. The door opens. This guy with flowing perm.
Yeah.
Shirtless, like just super good looking guy.
Shirtless.
Yeah. Just goes, "They're here." And so we load in, and it's almost like a battle of the band sort of thing, like the rock and like the metal guys.
Leather pants or acid washed?
I would venture to say probably acid wash. Yeah, maybe some leather. But one of the guys was very upset that we were so late because he had to go home and do his hair, but had no qualms about saying it, which I was impressed with.
Right.
Like he owned it. And so we actually won them over. It was like in a movie, like a dumb band movie where crowds against us at first, and then
these guys got some swagger.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I could
and by this point,
luckily,
yes. And at this point, like Keep Your Hands to Yourself had been a hit for a couple of years or something. So like they were a little open to
they knew
stuff that was rock. Yeah. Like they probably thought that's what we were. And then we play our way out to, I think the next show was the Coconut Teaser in LA.
Nice.
And played, didn't really mean much, of course. And then the next day was like a showcase at SIR.
Yeah.
And so we get there, and I was kind of
had all these great gigs to warm you up for the showcase.
Yes. And Social Distortion is just going into their room to practice. So that was kind of cool. They were stars to me. And and so we set up in a little room, and there's like a little stage, and our manager put out some treats for the 6 people that were coming to see us.
Yeah.
And during what must have been the second song, one of them, this is like as lit as I am, like just fluorescent light. One of them just gets up and just walks out, like walks past us and leaves.
Yeah.
Like couldn't wait for the 6-song set to be over.
Right.
And so I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. And we never got signed. We do the Death March back. We play in Las Cruces, another hotbed of rock.
Yes.
Opening for that same metal cover band.
No way.
Yes. And it was either that night or the El Paso night where the promoter, of course, didn't have any money to pay us, and ended up he was so broke he had to siphon gas from another guy's car to put in his own car. It was like the penury trek across America. And then we played Dallas with a band that was like King's X Jr. I don't know what they were called. It's lost to history. Some show in Austin, and then we drove all the way home. And I remember I couldn't eat the last couple meals because I didn't have any money. And and I pounds into my car once you get to Winston-Salem. I drive to Chapel Hill. I stop in to where my brother works. My brother worked for this tiny record label. And I said, hey, what's been going on? He goes, nothing. Mac from Superchunk called you. And I was just like, please need a drummer. And he did. And
the day you got home from tour, you get this news.
From the day I got back. Yes, isn't that insane? And he said, our drummer, we're having some issues. Do you want to try? And oh God, I was so lucky that worked out.
What a what a trip that was.
Yeah. Oh my God. But I'm so glad that I got that out of the way relatively early. I got that major label stuff out of the way early. And then when I got into Superchunk, that band Psychotic Norman had put a single out, but I pretty much left the month it came out to join the band in North Carolina. Yeah. So once I got into Superchunk, it was like, oh my God, you can put your own records out and tour, and you don't have to submit anything. You don't have to wait 6 months for Clive Davis to say you're ready to make a record. It was just, I just felt so lucky to get all that garbage out of the way before I was 25.
Was that tragic parade back and forth across America your first like car trip across the state?
Yeah. So it was exciting.
Even that in and of itself is a really weird and exciting and boring, mundane experience. Just driving across the country for the first time.
Yeah, and I was such a student of like rock and history and stuff that I was able to just like be excited about all of it. Oh, that's where that happened. Like this, whatever happened in this town, and this is where so and so lived, and so I found all that stuff exciting, which of course is not exciting on your third trip doing it, but
certainly not on your 30th trip.
Yeah, and I was young enough to be excited about it, even though, like I said, I couldn't eat, and nothing was coming of this. We're playing to 12 people a night.
So what was your, did you have an audition, or was it just like, yeah, if you want the gig, it's yours?
What was happening was they were having some trouble with their drummer, and they were about to go on tour with Mudhoney, and he said, oh, and the way I sort of, this is a fun layer too. The job I had in Chapel Hill was washing windows. So I was a window washer, and by chance, one of our clients was the record store where Mac worked. So at one point I came in to wash the windows, and he was working. And this must have been after the initial conversation to see if I might be interested. And he gave me a copy of what was about to be their new album, which was their second album. It hadn't come out yet. And he said they were going to, and they were going to see how it went with the drummer. And if it didn't work, would I want to try it? I said, yeah, of course. So while they were gone, I was doing my window washing every day and listening to their record and the previous record. And Superchunk actually opened for a band I was filling in for once. It was would have been in 1990, I think. And so I'd seen them a couple times and liked them. But when they came back from the Mudhoney tour and they played their show at the Cat's Cradle, it was kind of their record release party for this second album. And they were so good. Like they were so much better than they were. Like they really got good. And the songs were really good too. I thought like the songwriting had really gone up. And I was like, oh my God, this could be really great. And it wasn't working with the drummer for some reason. And I came over to Mac's house one night. Uh, uh, and we just, the four of us set up in a living room, and the first song we did was Slack Motherfucker, and it was on from there.
What was your first? So that was pretty natural. Like you guys sat down, played, and it was just like this is working right away, or was there?
Yes. Yeah. No, it was working, and I got really lucky in that. I've been lucky in life in that I've been able to pull from basically like two different whatever genres, and become kind of proficient at them. So like I was kind of, I had some of that rock and roll stuff in me when I joined the North Carolina band, even though I was primarily in like punk bands, like Psychotic Norman was kind of like a cross between the Minutemen, the Fall, and the Ramones, that sort of thing.
Rad.
And so when I joined that band, North Carolina, although I couldn't play that stuff, I knew it, like I knew of it. So when Superchunk came about, I'd already had experience playing punk rock, so it wasn't like super foreign to me. So I think I was maybe able to fall into that a little better than other people.
What was your first tour like? What was that experience like? Because this is and was the first tour, was it a national tour, or did you leave the country?
We did make it to Canada on this. It was
You didn't have to have a passport back then to go to Canada.
I did. I did.
You had one.
Yeah. And I remember having to kind of scramble to get it in time. First show was in Baltimore, and we had this great guy with us who
Autobar?
It was no, it was before that. It wasn't the 8x10. There was a place called the 8x10 or something. It was a name. It was a name like Barrymore's. It wasn't that, but it was something like that. And it was the night before Halloween, and Halloween's my birthday. And so there was all these cobwebs up on the wall on the club, like fake cobwebs. And I was playing, and my sticks would get stuck in the cobwebs because it was such a tiny stage. And at the end of the night, we played a show, and it was good. And someone took all of our merch money, which couldn't have been more than $50, but still.
But they stole it.
They stole it, and so that's how it started. And the next night was my birthday, and we played at Maxwell's with the Doughboys, and who was the other, and the Poster Children.
Wow.
So that was fun to get to play on my birthday in this new band and play in front of a bunch of people. And then the tour just kind of went on, and every day was like an adventure for me. They'd already been on a couple of tours, but for me, it was so much fun just to like be in a band that people wanted to come see.
Right. That was the first. People weren't coming out to see Psychotic Norman.
Not really. No, we played a couple shows opening for bigger bands, but no one really. I can't imagine people came to see us. More than 10 of our friends.
I know that song.
Right.
Yeah. So all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this is rock and roll.
Yes. Yeah, and then it just kind of kept going, and then the next tour was a tour out to the West Coast, and that was really fun. We played somewhere in Dallas, and we were opening for kind of a band that was kind of successful in Dallas. There was a big crowd, but we walked down the street. Mac and I walked down to see this band that he had heard of, called Rocket from the Crypt, and they were good. It was the first time I'd ever seen them. Didn't know a thing about them, and we just kind of became friends after that. We played with them a lot, and played with them maybe a couple weeks later at the Whiskey, which was a great show. It was Hole, Us, Whiskey. Hole, Us, Rocket, and someone else that was kind of cool. I can't remember who it was though. Yeah, it was just fun. Like, it was really cool to
Yeah.
kind of be in that world finally, you know.
I'm a big Jon fan.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He could do anything he wants, and I'd buy it. I think.
Yeah,
So
I
far.
got to I got to play on one of their records after Adam left.
Is
And
that right?
pardon me?
Is that right?
Yeah, it's called Group Sounds.
Yes.
And Adam had left, and I think the initial plan was like get a different drummer on every song, and maybe that wasn't cost effective or something. And so amazingly, he asked if I wanted to do it. And so I played on, I think, 8 songs. And Mario, who's incredible, he played on maybe 4 after that. Yeah, and then he became the drummer in the band.
You recorded out in San Diego?
We did it. We rehearsed in San Diego. We did half of it at Sound City, and where that amazing scene in in oh, what's the movie called? Boogie Nights.
Oh.
where
Feel,
they're
feel,
recording the song.
feel.
You feel my heat. We did it in that studio, in that room.
Factoid.
So that was
Factoid
exciting.
break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would have never ever heard this, but I had you might know him, or you may have known him. I had one of my dear friends, this guy Darius, who played drums in the
Oh,
Posey.
sure. He was great. I loved him. Yeah.
He was we were roommates in Seattle, and we were watching that movie, and in that scene, and he stopped it, and he goes, we were pretty messed up, and he goes, dude,
Yeah.
Stop. And I was like, what? And he runs upstairs, and he was a big Transformers fan, you know, as a kid, and he still had all of his old VHS, and he just starts feeding VHS tapes into the VCR, because that's what you have then in 98 or whatever. And that song, you got the look, you got the power, or whatever, you know, that was from a Transformers cartoon.
Wow. I don't think I knew that.
What the fuck were they doing? Like someone got paid twice. That's great.
That's incredible. Wow.
Anyway, dumb factoid.
Nice. And then the second half, the second session was at Easley Studio in Memphis, and that was cool. That was fun too.
How fucking cool.
I think the best show, the most fun show I've ever played in my life, was I would jump in the Rocket van when they would hit Chapel Hill in the early to mid 90s, and I would ride with them probably up to like New York, and I would play tambourine with them on stage.
Oh, dude.
And my rocket name was Liftoff. And we played the Khyber Pass in Philly, and it was just the greatest night. It was like the greatest rock night ever. Everything was just perfect. And all I had to do was shake, and I was just completely drunk too. But it was so much fun. They're such great guys.
Would you take the bus home?
You know, probably. Yeah, I don't think I would have had it together enough to fly. I'm sure I took a bus or probably the train.
Right.
Yeah, the bus ride was like 12 hours. This is insanely long.
Right. So we're in the 90s at this point. We're like into the mid 90s actually, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot has happened since then. And you do more than, how did you get into comedy, I guess is a big question I have.
Through the back door. I never had any aspirations for it. I loved comedy. When I was a kid, my favorite was Second City TV. That was my favorite show.
Yeah.
And then I loved Chris Elliott. I loved his show Get a Life.
Yeah.
And so in June, I think it was June of '92, I think. Superchunk plays this amazing bill. It was at the venue that was it was Studio 54, and it became the second Ritz in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of short-lived. And so we played there with My Bloody Valentine and Pavement.
Jesus.
And it was right as Pavement was starting to break, and
Yeah.
they should have gone on second, but the promoter let us go on second. So
Yeah.
but Gary the drummer,
Smoke him if you got him.
Yes, yeah. And Gary's parents were there, and Gary was the drummer for Pavement, and he was quite a bit older than those guys. So imagine like just seeing these white-haired couple just kind of hanging backstage by themselves and just waiting to watch their son play. And My Bloody Valentine is a jet engine. So anyway, that night I meet Tom Sharpling, who went on to become my comedy partner. He had a fanzine. He lived in New Jersey. He had a fanzine called 18 Wheeler, and he had done a story on, they might have just been called Chunk at the time, that they became Superchunk because of a name dispute. So he knew the people in Superchunk, and he was backstage, and we just hit it off. We loved Chris Elliott. We talked about Chris Elliott a lot, and things like that. And we just kind of hung out and started talking on the phone a lot. And it feels like in my memory, like a year later, we were doing calls on the best show, but it was 5 years later, I think. Like it was quite a while.
Right.
Tom eventually got his own show on WFMU, and kind of the first, if maybe the first or second call we ever did, we had this idea where I would call in as the author of this really dumb rock reference book that basically just says whether or not a band rocks, rots, or rules.
Yeah.
And so this guy's just the arbiter of this. It makes no sense. He says he's done some research for it. And sorry. And are we good? Yes.
Yeah, we're good.
And we decided to do this call. I'm going to be the guy. And so I'm he's interviewing me, and it's just this dumb concept, ridiculous. But people, because it's the first thing we've done, people think it's real. And listeners, and WFMU has these like record nerd listeners. And so my character at one point says that Madness rules because they invented ska. And this guy calls in and he's livid, and he and I get into it. But my character is almost like, he's almost like Trump, where he's just like, I hear your argument, but it just bounces off of me. I'm not gonna, And so we recorded it, and it went on forever. Like people were calling in, and it was really fun. So we edited it down, and we'd give this tape of this thing to rock bands like Guided by Voices, Sleater Kinney, Spoon were big supporters early on, David Bazan. And through this tape world, you don't want to listen to music while you drive. You want to listen to funny stuff. And so it became kind of like a van staple in some way. And so that kind of got us rolling. And then eventually Tom got like a real show that became known as the best show on WFMU. And we just kind of kept doing these calls, various characters. We developed this whole town after a while called Newbridge, and all my characters live in Newbridge. And it just kind of took off from there, and we're still doing it.
How so the genesis of this, the rock writer, that was something that you could easily tap into, right?
Yes, that was kind of key in that it's something that I can just I because I've just wasted my life reading all these books and magazines. I just have this infinite storage of factoids like that, and Tom does too.
How on earth do you find inspiration for new bits?
Well, that's one of the great things about touring, and it's kind of one of the reasons I still do it, is that every day something insane
Right.
comes into your view, like whether it's just like a misread sign or just whatever, some
Interaction, stuff.
encounter with someone. And so every day is an idea. So that's where most of them come from.
Do you notebook them? Do you keep a notebook on your phone? Like, how do you log ideas?
I've got just one of those, what do you call it? Like a Google Note page, I have a tab that's always open, and I'll just I'll just add to the list, and I'll always refer back to
how detailed will you get? Will you just be like, elderly man walking three-legged dog, and then you have to go back?
Yeah, that's usually it. Like, it's never more than just a line. But if it's something like, if I know there's like something really minute in there that kind of makes it funny, I'll write that down too. Like
Bermuda short.
Specific, like a specific thing that was said, or but yeah, it's usually that, and then it just kind of gets fleshed out, and it evolves into something. It usually turns out like that little bit of inspiration is just a tiny part of what it becomes.
Right. Yeah. And then when you go on to develop it, like how fully developed is it? I mean, I imagine some of it is, once it's happening, you're ad-libbing.
Yeah, they were a lot less written out early on, and then we stopped taking calls because people would always just go, "This isn't real," that sort of thing. So it became much more of a performance, and gradually they became really scripted. So they're about 90% scripted, and on my end they're really scripted. And now what I do, and what Tom likes, is for me to send basically just, all right, this is the setup. You say this, I come on, funny stuff here that I'm going to say, because he likes to be surprised by it. He likes, and then that's where kind of the riffing comes into. And then if there's something specific I need for him to say, I'll give him his cue line, like the last line I say before he has to say this. And then there'll be more stuff. It's like what?
It's like jazz.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Like there's an arrangement, and then a lot of freedom.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we did one called Kid eBay, and it's on one of our albums that we got out there. And basically all that was 10 minutes of me telling Tom about a way I've rigged eBay to kind of get whatever I want for a penny at the last second. Just some weird like software I invented that doesn't exist or anything.
Right.
And then I fall down the stairs and I break all of my limbs. And that's all we had on the sheet. We wanted to just try and see where it went. And it's 20 minutes of us just riffing about music and stuff. And every now and then my character starts moaning because he's dying, because he's broken. So it's this weird context of like a super record geek discussion, and one of the guys is dying.
Right.
So that's my mother's favorite, which always distressed me because it's me just groaning in pain for 20 minutes.
It must be. So how long has this been going?
Well, that first call, the Rock Rock and Roll thing, was in November of '97.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, we'll have little hiatuses here and there, and there are times when I'm touring heavily when I can't always do it. but we've been going pretty solid since I would say around 2002, maybe, or three.
So 20 years.
Yeah.
What an incredibly gratifying and even moreover fun thing to do.
It is, yeah. And it's weird because now thankfully we have a Patreon for it.
Yeah.
And so we make money from it, and it's my job at this point. I'm not doing anything else, so it's great to be able to write comedy for your job.
It's a really fun thing to listen to.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's fun, and it means a lot when people say they like it, and it's fun. It's weird. Like, I'll see people just on the street in like Australia with a Best Show shirt. So it's like, I mean, it's not big, but it's so odd that it makes it out there.
Right.
Like it's
a lot of podcast listeners in Australia.
I guess so. Yeah.
It's a big podcasting country.
Interesting.
Strangely. Yeah, they have like, yeah, it's a big thing there.
That's cool.
How crazy. So when did it, so it was on terrestrial radio for a while.
Long time, yeah. It from from that first call in '97 until I think 2013. I think it went off, and then it started up again the next year as its own thing on thebestshow.net. So ever since then, we've been doing it, pretty regularly on our own little platform.
It's great. I'm guessing, but it probably is more rewarding in the last 5 or 6 years than the previous 15 years were, as far as the return on your work. Like you said, it's your job. Were you able your job before, was it able to sustain you in that way?
No, we didn't take any money from
right
until then, really. Tom and I would do some live shows here and there, but this has been like the first money that we really made from it, other than playing live shows or selling the odd CD or T-shirt. But like, we got to be on The Simpsons a few years ago, which is insane. Like, that's like the ultimate thing, and it happened somehow. Yeah. One of the writers was a fan, and he wrote us into this episode, and it's called the Margin. What was that?
Give me the context.
It's called the Margin Chronicles. That's the name of the episode, and basically, Tom and I play these fly-by-night guys who have set up a recruiting station in like a mall to get to recruit the first civilians for a mission to I think to Mars. Yeah, to Mars. And it basically just a scam. And Lisa wants to do it, and to humor her, or to kind of convince her not to do it, Marge says, I'll do it, too. So hoping that because she's uncool, Lisa will think it's uncool and just abandon the idea. But they end up doing it, and Tom and I are just these guys that kind of are milking everyone. And but the last scene of the thing, as the credits roll, is a car driving away, and Tom and I are in the car, and there's a Best Show sticker on the car, and so it was. I just couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it happened.
So you got to do the voiceover work for the episode?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's incredible. And the likeness.
The likeness was kind of similar, bigger beard than I normally have, but I mean, it kind of looks like us, and it was really interesting to see how they do it. We got to go out to LA to do it, and we're just in the room where they do it. It was so cool, and but the way these episodes evolve, they're always changing things. They're always writing. So I had to go I had to go over to a studio in Raleigh at least 2 times to just add a line that they'd written, like a new line. And I feel like I did my last extra line 2 weeks before it aired. Like they do it that close to.
Well, that's a relief to
when
know
it airs.
that
Yeah.
even some things on that level are up to the last minute.
Right.
Headline shit. Because you just imagine, I mean, I just imagine that everyone has their shit together so much better than I do, or better than anything that I've ever been involved with. But the truth is, they don't.
Right. It's true.
2 weeks before you were making. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I just got a 10% notice on my phone here.
We'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up shortly. There's a whole, I mean, Jesus Christ, I feel like we
can
just
do a 2-parter.
We launched into it, and we've had some yucks, and then I just feel like we barely scratched the surface on like you've been in 100 million bands.
We didn't even get into the Nick Cave session of a couple years ago.
Jesus Christ, what? Really?
Right, I'll be quick with this. This was an insane event. I have a great. I'm really lucky to be in the right place at the right time often. Basically, I was asked by Fred Armisen and Bill Hader to be in this Documentary Now show that they did episode, where it's basically a spoof of Stop Making Sense, and it looks just like it, same stage. They really did it great. And so I'm the drummer in this band, and you shoot the concert twice. We went into the valley somewhere and they had a theater, and they had an audience there. And so you run through the show once, and Hal Wilner, who recently passed, and great music supervisor among other things, he had a speaking role in this thing. It didn't make it into the final cut, but he was great. And so he comes up to me in between shows and goes, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "Well, I'm flying home." And he goes, "Would you stay?" And I said, "Why? What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm producing this session for this Mark Bolan tribute album, and it's going to be Nick Cave, Courtney Love, and Maria McKee, who was in this band Lone Justice." And so I was like, "Yes, I'll do that." And so we run through the whole show again, and the entire time, luckily I had these songs in my muscle memory, because I'm just thinking, got to see if I can get the car for longer, got to see if Joe Wong can put me up, I got to see if I got to download these songs. I just, like, all this thought that was into it. And so the next day this session happens, and it was at Village Recorder, where in the same room, I think, where like a lot of the early Steely Dan stuff was done.
Yeah.
And so tiny room, full string, like a string section. I was in a little drum booth, stand-up bass, 2 guitar players, and then he walks in, and that's like the only kind of like Elvis moment I've ever really had, where it's like, oh my God, that's him. Those are the pants he wears. Like, he wears those great kind of flared pants.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool. And he was great. I think it was like almost a year to the day since his son died, and I didn't want to really overstep. So not much interaction, but he was great. It was just insane.
And you were on the other side of the sliding glass door also.
I was. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I've been so lucky. I have all these little moments like that have happened, and yeah, I'm just so lucky to, for whatever reason, be in the right place at the right time often.
I want to ask you one question, then I'll let you go, because I know your phone's going to die. As such, like, you're a high level music fan, like, you love to read about rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people that get into playing music don't do it because they think music is stupid, right? They get into it because they think it's
Right.
the greatest fucking thing on earth.
Yeah.
You know, there's that weird thing, you know, where that's Nick Cave. And it can be very nervous, but you could be very nervous and tense in a situation like that, but you were asked to be there because you're a capable drummer and you have your shit
Yeah.
together. But where do you have to go in your mind to put aside the fact that you're playing with Nick Cave, deliver the part, and then holy shit, the next day you can like exhale and say, oh, I played with Nick Cave. That was fucking wild.
I think it's just knowing I can do it. Is
Sure.
you know, like is part of it. And I always try to think, I see it through the eyes of the kid in, you know, in my house, 13 years old, playing along with records. I got to play in the Pretenders for one night a
What?
few years ago. Jason and I, who plays bass in Superchunk, and Bob Mould, basically it was this one-off private show, and I guess it was more of cost effective or logistically effective to just get two American guys to play. And so it was me, Jason, James, who's this incredible guitar player in the Pretenders, and Chrissy, and she was so cool, and made a set, and we opened with the Talk of the Town, which is one of my top 5 songs of all time by anybody, and I was just laughing because I couldn't believe it was happening. Same with the Nick Cave thing. It's just like, I'm just constantly just amazed that I'm where I am. Like that Simpsons thing too. It's just like, so I think I just appreciate it, and I take it all like, wow, I can't believe this is happening.
Right.
And that kind of like calms me down somehow.
That's amazing. What a bunch of what a incredible road of life you've had.
It's been more than I hoped for. So if I never play again, I'm good.
I keep
I hope I play again.
Yeah. Well, I know your phone is gonna die.
I can see if I can plug it in somewhere.
Oh, sure. Why don't you? If you're able to.
Let me try. Let me if it'll reach. Hang on. Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, this is fine. This is great.
Wonderful. Look at that.
Yeah.
I can soak you for some more time.
Perfect.
So was the Rocket gig, was that the first that, you know, go off and record? Was that the first sort of like special side gig that of note that you were called for?
No. God, there had to have been other things. I played for a tour. This was summer of '98 in a band called Whiskey Town, which was Ryan Adams' band.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm aware. Yeah.
We opened for John Fogerty for about a month.
No.
And so yeah, so that was probably the first like, oh, you're going to go off for a month now with this other band. But so I did a short tour in like maybe '94 with a band called Magna Pop, who was from Athens, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
They had lost their drummer. And
the Rocket gig was before that though, yeah?
No, Rocket was 2001, and then I did some songs for a record by this guy Alejandro Escovedo. That same maybe earlier that year, and that was great. That was a really cool one. And then the next year, I got through my friend who's a guitar tech guy, DeWitt. He's been REM's guitar backline guy for, at least 15 years or so. He recommended me, long story short, every year, I think it still happens, one of the guys in REM is tasked with putting their fan club single together, like to pick a song, like covers or whatever, and get that together. Anyway, it was Mike Mills' job in, I think, 2003. And so our friend DeWitt recommended me for it. And so basically, I went over to Mitch Easter's place in Kernersville, North Carolina, and Mike came up and we recorded maybe 3 songs. We did Jesus Christ by Big Star, an NRBQ song for an NRBQ tribute record, and something else. No Matter What by Badfinger. And
wow,
it must have been while they were making maybe Around the Sun, REM. And Peter and Michael put their stuff on it too. So I got to play on with REM, even though it wasn't all of us in the same room. So that was an exciting one too.
That is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I lived with Ken Stringfellow for a while in Seattle. We were roommates. I rented a room from him. And I mean, I use that term pretty loosely. I think I stiffed him for a month. But those are different days. Sorry, Ken. But he had that gig being sort of a utility guy for REM, and I would hear, he was studious about that shit. I learned a lot from watching him prepare for that gig because he's a capable musician. And he was really, really, really serious about learning all the parts, thoroughly.
Yep.
He even learned instruments that he wasn't required to. And I was like, what are you doing? It was like, well, I don't know, what the fuck do I know? I was like, right. That's
cool.
I'm gonna keep that in my back pocket.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I never got the REM gig though.
Well, I got to do this tour with the -5 in 2002. We opened for Wilco down the West Coast, and Ken was in the band, and he was great. Like you just said, like he just knew it. He was one of those guys where you wouldn't think he had even thought about it. But he sat down at the organ or their piano or guitar, and it's just there. So he can do it. He's a
natural, but he definitely puts in the work. But he doesn't let on that he puts in the work.
Right. Yeah, I would never have thought that. I would have thought he would just like, I'll play that.
I feel like I want to mine you for all, like there are other gigs that you've done. There's all this other stuff that you have been involved in, and I want to hear about it. I want to get you wound up, man.
It's going to be a long night then.
Well, I know that. We don't have to go.
Speaking of prep, the hardest prep I've ever done and the hardest songs I ever had to learn were two
Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Similar gigs. New Pornographers and Robert Pollard. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was in like got it up on the wall. I can't read it though. 6 maybe for Pollard, and then 07 for New Pornographers. Oh, the parts, so many different parts, and like
right.
One part happens once and then it happens 3 times, 3.5, and but so that I had great pride in myself after both of those experiences, because those were hard band songs.
The New Pornographers are rad, and dude lives across the river, like he's over in Woodstock. Yeah,
Carl. Yeah.
I need to chase him down.
I got to play on his second solo album. I got to play on that. That was really cool. Yeah, he's great. He's really great. He's one of the best songwriters of my generation, I think.
Was Nico out? Does she do all?
Oh yeah,
those?
yeah.
Man,
No.
I didn't think so.
I think if it's like if it's a release, like, you know, if it's on release cycle, then I think she'll do it. But I don't think she goes overseas or out of the country with him. Although I think she went to Australia with him on their last tour. Yeah.
I can't get over how incredible, like when she opens her mouth and sings, it's just like, it's like,
oh yeah,
it's like when the clouds crack and the sun shines through.
Oh yeah,
that's what her voice sounds like.
She and Chrissie Hynde are the two best voices I've ever played with. Chrissie Hynde, like, it was the first time I'd ever had in-ears, and it was like a record. I couldn't believe it. It was just like, oh my God, no warm up. I don't know if Nico warms up either. It's just there. It's crazy.
Are you on in-ears still when you perform?
Only with the Mountain Goats. And if I'll do like sit in with the Seth Meyers band, then they're on in-ears too. Yeah. So I'll use them for those things. Yeah, I love it. I haven't done it for Bob just because I sweat so much that I'm afraid they'll just short out after a show. I don't know. Right. How it works.
I've never had a nice pair of in-ears. Like I have some weird Shure things. Mm-hmm. Send me some money, Shure.
Yeah, they're expensive, but I think they're worth it. I use them to practice if I practice drums, I'll use them.
Because were you an earplug guy? Did you wear?
Yes, I was lucky. I started earplugs like right when I started in Superchunk because the cymbals were so crushing that. So I've worn like the 30, the styrofoam, you know, the heavy, the
OSHA
ones you get it. Yeah, I've worn those probably consistently since '93.
Oh, good for you. I have terrible loss. Like my ears are ringing.
I bet
we speak, and it's cymbals. It's not guitar, and it's all cymbals. I think that's the frequency.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, and this Pretenders gig, I was behind a thing. I was behind one of the shields.
Oh, really?
The plexiglass. Yeah, I'd never done that before, and it was fine until the show. I never even thought about this because there's like lights hitting you. All you see is your own reflection.
Oh,
so it was very weird. Like you do see the other people, but the main thing you see is you. Oh, I was not prepared for that.
Really? But you can't. I mean, it's not just reflective, so you can see like if.
Yeah.
At the end of everybody, but like one of these things, you can catch that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, but like your eyes are just instantly drawn to your own face because it's such an unnatural experience. You know what I mean? Like what?
Did you have any goof ups when you were distracted by yourself?
No, but this is interesting. I'd love for people to, if they can learn one, if I could teach one thing, it would be don't be afraid to fuck up. I was so excited when this Pretenders gig came up, and when she sent the songs, my heart sank just a micro because one of my favorite songs was on it, Tattooed Love Boys, but it's in a bizarre time signature. Yeah, it's got a weird time signature.
Or 7.
And I just thought it's funny. I had to research this for a little thing I wrote about it recently, and it's a time signature I've never heard of. This guy seemed to think it was a particular. I'll send it to you. I can't remember what it is. I'd never heard of the signature before. But anyway, basically it drops. It's like 8 and then 7. So ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And so it's the most I've rehearsed a song in my life. I must have played it 3 times a day from September until the show in the first week of December.
Oh, you had 3
My poor
months to
neighbors. I mean,
prepare.
yeah, it was great. It was like, yeah, that never happens.
Right.
Um, and so we rehearsed for maybe 2 days, and she's like us. She doesn't want to rehearse, you know. Like I don't like to
She's
rehearse
like, you
really.
you learn the songs, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then we'd go out for dinner. She was great. Like she wanted to hang. Um, and so, but now it's sound check at the gig, and I fucked it up. I missed one of the sevens, but I instantly recovered. And that was like the greatest thing because it proved to me that I didn't need to be afraid of it. I could get out of it once I fucked it up. And I played it fine during the show because I wasn't worried anymore. I wasn't worried about what that unknown of fucking it up would be. And
Right.
once I found out, I guess you could probably say it's about anything in life where it's probably not as bad as you think it's going to be, unless it's you get your arm caught between two boulders in the desert. You know,
Right.
that's
That
bad.
could be bad. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the interesting thing about all the gigs you've had is that it's different for a drummer, right? I mean, a drummer who that folks have confidence in is likely to get a lot more gigs than I mean, although I mean there are some exceptions, but for instance, like guitar players are typically known for, you know, a thing they do, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you look at like Reeves Gabrels, he went from Bowie to
Sure.
The Cure. He wasn't gonna get the fucking Creedence Clearwater call.
No. Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Elliot Easton, though, because he did, you know, he could fucking Travis pick, and he sounded like that on the
Right.
Cars. Like he belonged in the Creedence all along.
He did. It's great. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I think I'm a good drummer. I'm not amazing, but I play songs. I don't give a fuck about how fast you can play or double kicks or not there anything wrong with that, but just I want to hear if I don't notice a drummer, he's doing great. I want to be sedated. One fill. That song
But
"King of Pain" by the
you
Police.
practice
One fill.
flamadoodles on your pad that you still
I
have?
used to.
Yeah.
I used to. I don't. I just look at the pad and
Yeah.
just kind of contemplate the pad often. Um, but so I think just being able to play reasonably well, and more important, being a guy people can get along with. There's
Right.
so many incredible musicians out there that for whatever reason, when they incarnated, they got the talent, they didn't get the social skills, they didn't get
Right.
whatever the disposition that allows them to not destroy their drums when someone says, "Why don't you play it like this?"
Right. They're cocks.
You know? Yeah, or yeah, it's just a different thing. And my job is to help you realize what you hear in your head in terms of your song. You know, that's all I care about. I don't care if I don't play any fills at all during an entire song. If it helps the song.
Right. If it helps the song. What if it's just a free for all?
Yeah.
I mean, surely there's a part of you that the inner, you know, 10-year-old that still loves Kiss or whatever, and that is just like, yeah, I want to do some weird fucking triplet look at me fills.
You know, as I got older, no. Yeah, and it's funny. I think like a lot of young people, you get really into Keith Moon when you start drumming, and
right.
He's obviously one of the greatest of all time. My tolerance for Keith Moon drumming is like 3 songs now. It just gets so tedious to me. I know that's sacrilege, and he's amazing. He's the best. Yeah. But I want to hear 75% less of the. But that's him. I mean, that's you hear that. That's him. But that's just not where I am anymore.
Right.
For better or worse. For better or worse, I don't know.
What was 2020? I mean, I don't want to dwell on this because 2020 is now behind us, but what did you have planned in 2020 that had to fall by the wayside?
A lot. I was lucky that the Mountain Goats and Bob Mould both got our tracking done for albums. I think they were both kind of done by March 15th somehow. And so both those albums came out, and there would have been a lot of touring, absolutely, for both of those. And some Superchunk stuff that we had coming up. But you know, I just realized I needed to look at it in a positive light. I pretty much toured and recorded just between Superchunk, Bob, Mountain Goats, and whatever else came up, pretty much just constantly for 10 years. And had this not happened, it would have kept going unbroken. So I just felt like I'll take a year off. I'll recuperate and be able to do it hopefully even longer now that I've had this time to, you know, restore and meditate every day and not have to
makes the heart grow fonder.
Go somewhere. Yeah. So I once I just kind of saw it like that, hey, you know, well, it'll probably start again. It may not be for a year and a half or something, but it'll happen again. Why not just get healthy as you can be so you're ready for it?
I thought this
and I practice a lot every day.
Really?
Say again?
You practice a lot every day? Is that what you said?
Yeah. And I'll play. I'll play along with things that I normally wouldn't like. I'm not great at it. I love playing along with like early to mid 70s reggae.
Oh.
It's just like so soothing, and also it's probably just the same sort of motion. I love that old fashioned kind of country, just like for an example, Behind Closed Doors, Charlie Rich. It's just,
oh yeah, dude.
I just love it. I love it. It's just so, because it's like, it's not rock and roll, either one, you know, so it's just so much fun because it's just like, it's not super loud. It forces you to lay back and just kind of float. And I just love playing along with that kind of stuff.
I've played that song.
And I'll probably never use it in anything.
I've probably performed that song 100 times.
Really? Oh, I love it. Such a good song. Such a great one.
It's incredible.
There's a great article online about the recording of it, like the session. It's really interesting. Yeah.
With all this, the juggling that you do, how often? I mean, it's got to be like an operator. What do you call those? Like an exchange board for you to figure out and coordinate between all of the things that you're involved in. Is it difficult? And how do you manage that when there's clashes?
Luckily, there really haven't been that many clashes. The big one was Tom and I got this offer to do a thing for Adult Swim, like a fake infomercial. They were doing these things for a while, and basically we did a fake infomercial for our town, Newbridge, that we've created on the Best Show. And so I had that blocked out. We're going to shoot that for like 3 days up in New Jersey, and then Bob Mould, we had this appearance on Jimmy Kimmel that was set, and I made sure I told his office that I can't do it during this time, and somehow it got moved up to the weekend when we were doing this shoot, and so Taylor Hawkins filled in for me that night. So that's kind of the only time that's ever happened as far as I can remember. There have been times where I've had to play festivals with Bob, and then 2 hours later with Superchunk. That happened several times. I don't think I would want to do it anymore now, but I guess I was in shape enough at that point to do it. But those were tough. But beyond on those, everything is kind of planned out far enough in advance, and managers talk to managers, and I have no personal life, so it's not like it's going to interfere with my kids going to school or any first day of school. You know? Yeah.
No, you don't have kids. Is that what you're saying?
No. Right.
Got it. What's your day-to-day like right now? You said you spend a lot of time writing for the show.
Yeah. Usually, like, I'll work on my call from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, up until about 2 hours before we actually do it. I'm still refining it, and so then that Wednesday's off and Thursday's off and Fridays something's going on usually, and then it just kind of starts again. But my day, now that nothing is going on in terms of touring or anything, I'll get up and I have like a routine where I have like a power powder that I subscribe to. I get it every month. It's like a greens and things, and I'll take that, and then I'll make some oatmeal, and then I'll do my 2-mile walk, and then I'll do my push-ups, and then I'll watch TV, and then I'll practice, and then whatever comes up. I haven't been more than 20 miles outside of my town in a year.
Wow.
Either. I haven't traveled at all anywhere.
I mean, I guess all I've done is I've been as far north as Albany and as far south as the city, and I've driven to Maryland. I guess I've driven to Maryland to make deliveries, but I just walk in, drop something off, and drive back. I mean, I might as well be here. It's crazy. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
But I'm not about to get on a plane right now.
No, same. Yeah, not yet. But hopefully someday.
Sure. It sounds like you lead a pretty healthy lifestyle. I
try to. Yeah. I think I lost 10 pounds in the last year. Everyone says they're gaining weight. Somehow I didn't. I think I just lost interest in making and eating food after June. So it's just like, it's just like, that's fine. I don't need any more than that. So it's, yeah. But yeah, drumming is great for keeping in shape. I'm lucky about that.
Have you always been health conscious, or were you a slob in the 90s?
I think I was always like interested and excited by like home remedies and things like if you eat this, that's good for this, like whatever, like try some radish juice or something, like I've always like kind of trying stuff like that and never sticking to it. Like I've always found it interesting, but being forced to stay home, yeah, I'm really into like shots and things and
do you
tinctures.
Have things that you're onto right now?
I'll do like a juice, so like good orange juice, a shot of this cayenne oregano oil, CBD oil, that what else? A lot of turmeric.
Yeah.
Garlic, so it all goes in there, and I'll get those things on the road too. If there's like a juice shop around, I'll always go to the juice shop and get something like that. And they're like hard to choke.
Some of those things are definitely hard to choke.
Cayenne and garlic, but they work. I think they work though. I play. There was a night in I think it was in Glasgow with Bob Mould where just getting sick, and I just ran to this juice place that was about to close, and it was about like $50 worth of just like stuff, and it worked. Like I didn't get sick. You're
like, give me that echinacea shit, give me like all of it, right?
And it was worth it, because you don't want to get sick in
the
England.
submarine. You don't want to get sick in the tour submarine.
No, true.
Everyone's sick.
I did though. Oh my God, the most sick I've ever been on the road was the last Bob Mould tour that we did in the UK. I picked up something, and he did too, in Berlin, and it really came on the day of the show in London, of all places, and I don't even remember the show. Like chills, fever, and we had 3 more to go. We never play 4 in a row, but we're doing 4 in a row on this one, and it was like, I think it was March or February. Just, it's the closest I ever came to asking to go home, because I couldn't eat, and then so I'm just basically just drinking that Pedialyte stuff, and
Right.
trying to keep that down, and then having to play an hour and a half Bob Mould set every night.
Did you
Just
have any terrifying uh-oh moments on stage, or
no, because there wasn't anything in me. Like, I didn't have anything. There was nothing to there was nothing to come out at an
right,
unexpected time, just except for sweat.
right.
But that was the worst. I can't imagine. You hear about people who are always sick, like Joey Ramone was apparently always sick on the road, always having to go to the hospital. I just couldn't imagine touring and having to like worry about where's the closest hospital every day. Oh, I wouldn't do it, I guess, anymore.
How long have you had that gig with Bob?
Bob, that's a funny story also. My memory of this is that Jason Narducci, he was the bass player in the Robert Pollard band that I played in 05 or 06, and that's when we first played together. And Bob made a record with Brendan Canty from Fugazi on drums and Jason on bass, and then they made another one. And Brendan, at this point, I think had at least 4 kids, and he just couldn't tour anymore. And I remember Jason asked if I could do that tour, and I was just starting with the Mountain Goats at this point, or we were kind of getting rolling as this era of the band. So we had a bunch of shows, and I couldn't do it. And so they got this other guy, and the guy was just, I guess, a bad fit. It wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And so by chance, the Mountain Goats are on tour. We have 2 more shows to do. We were in Philly at that First Unitarian Church, playing there. And I get a call from Jason saying, hey, would you be able to do this European leg of this tour that we're doing? I think we're maybe going to cut with this guy. And I said, yeah, I can actually do that. And then a little bit later, I think it was the same day, maybe the next day, he calls again and he says, would you be able to finish this tour? And I was like, and by chance that day, this Mountain Goats tour of Australia got canceled for some reason. I can't remember what it was. So I had the time open, and I said, I'm feeling lucky. Yes, let's do it. And I had one more show with Mountain Goats. We played in DC, and I just asked Jason for the songs, like what songs, because I was a huge Husker Du fan, so I knew that stuff. And
that
luckily Bob was
coming, yeah.
So Bob was playing that stuff now, and I knew a bunch of I knew several songs from Sugar and several of his solo songs, but there was probably at least a quarter of the set I didn't know at all. And so I just said, send me what I need to learn, and I'll learn it on the plane, and we'll try it. And I did. The Mountain Goats dropped me off at my place. I showered, and I don't know if I flew out that day or the next morning.
Wow.
And I flew to LA. They picked me up, and I'd met Bob a couple times over the years, but like not a lot. Like I didn't really know him well.
Right.
And I'd seen Husker Du several times when I was in Philly back as a kid. And so we drive down to Solana Beach near San Diego to the Belly Up Tavern. And they asked the previous drummer to leave his drums, and he did. And so set up his drum kit on stage, and we sound check, and we
Wait,
didn't run through the whole
he
set.
wasn't there at the place,
No,
right? No, they
he
had
had flown
already
home. Yeah,
chicken or beef,
he
right? That's the question.
yes, yeah. So he'd flown home, and I must have just like done elaborate notes, like a big chart, and we probably ran through at least 7 or 8 songs, and they went pretty well, and we played the show that night.
That was
And
it.
it went well
How many
enough, and
how
then
many songs are in the set?
it must have been at least 20, probably
And so you
more.
didn't even run the set. You ran less than half
No,
the set.
yeah,
And I imagine they were Bob's solo songs. Maybe he sprinkled 1 or 2
yeah,
songs in to see if
yeah, like yeah. And at that sound check, he probably like showed, like, Bob doesn't like to rehearse either, and so he probably showed me, here's how it starts, blah, 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 here's how it ends, and I'll just, and he's like Chuck Berry. This was very helpful.
right.
When the right foot goes down, that's when the song is ending. That's the end of the song, and he still does it to this day, and I still rely on it. I'll always be looking to my left, to see if is this the end, or does it go longer? I can't remember. And the foot tells.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was it. And I've been in ever since. I'm always amazed he asked me back. I don't know why, but it just
What year,
like that.
what year was it?
That's like getting to play with him. That was 2009, I think.
Right.
And like that's one of those things too, where had I had notice and been been asked like, hey, do you want to audition for Bob Mould, or do you want to do this? Then I would have been nervous, because he's like, to me, that's like getting to play with John Lennon. Like, I was such a Husker Du fan,
sure.
and like that's a huge deal for me. But because it was so fly by the seat of the pants, there wasn't time to be nervous.
Right.
Like the Nick Cave thing also is just like, let's do it. I got to play in this UPS commercial in 2001. Me, Charlie Daniels, and Kyle Gass from Tenacious D.
Yeah.
And I've told this story many times, so if you've heard it, just stop me. But basically, it was in Chatsworth. That's where they shot this thing. There's like a giant tree that I've since learned is in a lot of commercials, and so it was a revamped version of Devil Went Down to Georgia, and it was about this race car driver who was the face of this UPS campaign, Dale Jarrett, and the song was Dale Jarrett is a race car driver, da 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 da, and that's the song, and we had to record the audio for it first, just to have like a good version of it, but we would play it live. We'd play it live, and it was just me on brushes and a snare drum, and Charlie on guitar or on fiddle, and Kyle on bass. And Kyle's agent, I guess, had told them that Kyle could play upright bass. He could play guitar well, but
No.
he'd never played an upright bass. And so he got there, and we had to record the song, and I don't remember. I mean, he wasn't being
didn't
malicious.
even know what an upright bass was. I'll bet you.
He wasn't being malicious by like, doing this. I felt like it was on his manager to say he couldn't do it. He couldn't play. But anyway, so to his credit, Charlie, instead of like being upset, was just like, son, let's teach you how to play this thing. And he did. And Kyle took to it like very quickly and was great at it. Like, he was like, I think Kyle was excited that he could play it well. And
Right.
so that was I don't know why I brought this up, but that was like another kind of fly by the seat of the pants thing where it just happens. Yeah, it just happens. And Charlie was cool. I asked him about Bob Dylan stuff he played on, and he was excited to talk about that. And so when you don't have time to worry about it,
right,
it's great. Like I've had times, I don't know if you have this, where like we've done some shows with Bob, like with the Foo Fighters or whoever, like in these arenas.
Yeah.
And it's just such a unnatural environment for a band. Like if you haven't done it much, it's just like, it doesn't feel right. And so
Particular
I
style of music that is groomed and created for that
yeah,
environment also.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so I found myself getting like super wound up about that sort of thing. And then something goes wrong, like with the gear, like something
Yeah.
is going to fall apart. And it's the greatest thing. It's like that fuck up with the Pretenders, where you your mind is taken from your whatever dumb thing you're afraid is going to happen, which won't happen, and now you're like concentrating on like something that really is out of your control, like a technical thing, and your body goes on autopilot as far as I'm concerned. And I think that is really important and really crucial, like
Right.
not overthinking things so much, like if you're forced to go on autopilot, it can be the greatest thing ever.
I have this recurring nightmare, and it's ridiculous because it's been almost exactly a year since I played a gig. But
Mm-hmm.
before that, I mean, it was years, it was 5 years since a substantial tour.
Mm-hmm.
And, but in this recurring dream, I have a gig that I've been called for, and I show up to play. Only
Mm-hmm.
when I get there, it's not the gig that I've prepared for.
Oh
And
no,
I'm
yeah.
very prepared for the gig that I've prepared for.
Right.
Like very prepared. But I get there and I don't know any of the songs, and the lights come on. It's almost like the you know, being naked in the hallway at school or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, what am I doing here? I'm not dressed.
Yeah.
Uh do you is that weird? Do you have anything like that? Do you have any
Oh yeah. Trying to think of a good one. It was uh it was something related to Robert Pollard. It might have been before the gig with him. There's so many songs. We play like 50 songs a night. And I
right?
remember this dream was, we're about to go on, and I said, I don't think I know like 10 of the songs. What should I do? And in the dream he goes, oh, just clap. So so that's the one that comes to mind first, is that one. Yeah, I don't often
Just clap.
have those. Yeah, just clap. Just clap.
It doesn't seem unreasonable.
No. No.
uh if everything opened up this year, I don't think it will, but if everything opened up this year, like let's say, the fall, things were happening, what's the first thing you would do? Like, I just want to sit down at a restaurant.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Oh,
Or go have coffee somewhere. Like, yeah, the nothing more extreme than that, really. You know, see a movie. I haven't, I used to go to the movies all the time.
that was going to be the next thing I said. I love a movie theater. I
Yeah, it's
love,
fun.
I'll go to see a movie. I started as a kid going to see movies by myself.
Hmm.
I remember going to see Star Wars by myself,
Right.
like grade school.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's a magic place to be.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you can't do that shit. I think that there are theaters that are open around the country, certain places.
Yeah, I think there's one here that or at least you can rent. Like, you can just rent it out for the night. I have no idea how much it is, but
I
yeah, I
mean,
don't know.
what can you even have play? Will they order in a reel to play any movie you
That's
want?
what I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know
Oh,
how it works.
oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah. What if it was like $30,000 though?
I mean, what's money?
True.
I tell myself that all the time. What's money anyway if I want a thing?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. My my ex had a great saying that was just like, you'll never remember that $500. Like you won't, like to buy something that's
Right.
a total splurge once in a lifetime sort of thing. And she was right. You'll never remember that money, but you'll remember getting to meet Christopher Lee.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Did you buy an interface and stuff? I know that we won't talk about the song
right.
specifically because
I did. I bought it. I bought mic stands. I bought mic clips, and then I got a message from the store I bought the interface from, and said that my boss mistakenly thought we had one in stock, so it would be 2 more weeks. So hopefully I'll get it in 2 weeks.
Oh, good. What did you go with?
I got one of those Focusrite things.
Yeah.
That seemed to be the best reviewed thing, and I was watching videos for it, and it seems like even a Luddite can figure it out. And I think it's got at least 6 mic inputs, like actual
mic pre's.
Is that XLR? Is that what that is? Yeah.
Yeah. My friend Oscar, who's a session, he cuts a lot of session drums in his studio in New York. He uses one of those.
Yeah. And, cool.
He loves it. So I don't know if it's a favorite among drummers, but I know folks.
Don't know.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into it, because I've been asked to play on things over the last year, and I just sounds like a headache, but I got to do it. I got to figure it out.
Well, I'm super excited for that, the song that we're working on, and I think
it'll be great.
It's a great tune. It's so far it's a really great crew. Well, yeah, man, that's just an inspiring career in music, which is a fucking, as I'm what do you say? It's like telling Noah about the flood, but putting together, like, having a career in music for this long is no small feat.
There's an Elvis Costello lyric that goes, "I don't want to be first, I just want to last." And that's how I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to be working, and I applaud you.
Thank you. Well, let's I think I'm doing my drums next week.
Killer.
Barring some unforeseen circumstance. It's already booked. Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll keep you posted, and like I said, we're on schedule for next Thursday, and
awesome.
Yeah, be great. All right, Mike. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being. It's great to host you.
We'll do it again, I hope.
Have a great night.
Okay. See ya. Bye.